The day I found out my wife was pregnant was the happiest of my life. Emily and I had been trying for years, and when she finally held up the positive test with tears in her eyes, I swore I would do anything to protect our family. We had built a solid life together, 5 years of marriage, a cozy suburban home, and a future that seemed full of promise. Emily worked as an executive assistant for Mr. Harrison, the CEO of a high-profile firm. She had always been devoted to her job, but lately, her workload had become overwhelming. Late-night emails, weekend meetings, hushed phone calls. At first, I thought it was just corporate pressure. But something about the way she carried herself had changed. She was distant. It started subtly. A distracted nod when I spoke, a sigh when I asked about her day. I would catch her staring at her phone with a tight expression before quickly tucking it away. When I asked if something was wrong, she would smile, forced, hollow, and say, "Just work stuff." One night, she came home later than usual, shoulders tense. I was sitting on the couch, flipping through the baby name book we had started. She barely acknowledged me as she dropped her bag by the door and headed straight to the bedroom. Long day? I called after her. She hesitated before answering. Yeah. Exhausting. I waited for her to say more, to maybe tell me what was weighing on her mind. But she disappeared into the bathroom, and when she emerged, she climbed into bed without another word. Something was off. The next morning, over coffee, she finally mentioned it. "I might have to testify in Mr. Harrison's divorce case," she said casually, as if discussing the weather. I frowned. "Testify? Why?" She shrugged, stirring her coffee too aggressively. "His wife is making wild accusations. Since I handle his schedule, I guess I'm being called as a witness." A chill settled in my gut. "What kind of accusations?" Emily hesitated. Just for a second. But it was long enough. "I don't know, just infidelity, financial stuff. It's messy." She glanced at her watch and stood up abruptly. "I'm late. We'll talk later, okay?" She kissed my cheek, too quick, too mechanical, and rushed out the door. I sat there, staring at the untouched coffee in front of me, trying to shake the feeling gnawing at my chest. Emily had never kept secrets from me. But something about the way she avoided my eyes, the way she brushed it off so quickly, sent alarm bells ringing in my mind. A part of me wanted to trust her. After all, this was my wife, the mother of my unborn child. But another part of me knew that when someone starts hiding things, it's never without reason, and for the first time in our marriage, I was afraid to find out the truth. The envelope arrived 3 days later, thick and official, with Emily's name printed in bold letters across the front. She stood frozen in the doorway, fingers tightening around the paper as if the weight of it had suddenly turned unbearable. I sat at the kitchen table, watching her, waiting. "What is it?" I asked, though I already knew. Emily exhaled sharply, ripping the envelope open. Her eyes scanned the document, her lips pressing into a thin line. "It's a subpoena," she muttered. "They're making me testify." My stomach tightened. "Testify about what exactly?" She set the papers down carefully, like they might explode if handled too roughly. "Mr. Harrison's wife is trying to prove he had an affair. His lawyers think I can refute her claims, show that his schedule wouldn't have allowed for anything inappropriate." Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled as she reached for her coffee. I leaned forward, studying her face. "Why would his wife think he was cheating?" Emily's jaw tightened. "Because she's desperate. She wants to take everything from him." I let her words settle, weighing them against the nagging voice in my head that refused to be silenced. "Are you sure that's all it is?" Her eyes flashed, a brief flicker of something unreadable. "Of course. Why would you even ask that?" "Because something wasn't right. Because she had been acting strangely for weeks. Because deep down, I was afraid of the answer." I chose my words carefully. It's just, you've been different lately. Distant. And now this comes up, and I feel like there's more you're not telling me. Emily pushed back from the table, irritation flashing across her face. I can't believe this. You think I'm involved? She let out a bitter laugh. Unbelievable. That's not what I said, I countered, keeping my voice level. But I can't pretend I'm not concerned. If his wife has evidence, there is no evidence, she snapped. Because nothing happened. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to take her word as truth and push away every creeping doubt. But trust isn't just words, it's consistency, and lately, Emily had been anything but. The tension stretched between us, thick and suffocating. Finally, she shook her head, grabbing her purse. I have to get to work. She left without another word, the door slamming behind her. I sat in the silence she left behind, staring at the subpoena lying on the table. The crisp legal jargon felt like a wedge, driving deeper into the cracks forming between us. If Emily had nothing to hide, why did she look so afraid, and if she did, what was I about to uncover? The courthouse smelled like stale coffee and polished wood. I sat in the back of the courtroom, my hands clenched into fists as I watched Emily take the witness stand. She looked small beneath the towering judge's bench, her hands folded in her lap, her posture tense. Mr. Harrison sat at the defense table, his expression unreadable. His wife, a striking woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper voice, watched Emily with the kind of scrutiny that made my stomach twist. The opposing attorney stepped forward, flipping through a stack of papers. Mrs. Carter, you were Mr. Harrison's executive assistant for how long? 5 years, Emily answered, her voice steady. In those 5 years, would you say you had a close working relationship with him? Emily hesitated, just for a fraction of a second, but long enough for me to notice. Yes. Strictly professional. The attorney nodded, pacing. You managed his calendar, correct? Yes. So you would know if he had any meetings, outside the office? I would. The attorney stopped, turning toward her. Did Mr. Harrison ever meet with a woman named Angela Whitmore? Emily's breath hitched, so quiet I barely caught it. But I saw the shift in her posture, the way her fingers tightened on the railing in front of her. She swallowed. I don't recall. A murmur spread through the courtroom. My pulse pounded in my ears. The attorney retrieved a folder from the table and held up a printed document. This is a hotel booking under Mr. Harrison's name. A private suite. The night in question, you were also in that hotel, weren't you, Mrs. Carter? A sharp ringing filled my head. My body went cold. Emily's lips parted, but no sound came out. My world tilted. The attorney pressed forward. We have phone records confirming a call between you and Mr. Harrison that night. His wife claims you were involved in more than just his work schedule. Tell me, Mrs. Carter, were you having an affair with your boss? Silence. Emily looked down, her face drained of color. I wanted her to deny it. To meet my eyes across the courtroom and tell me it wasn't true. That this was all a misunderstanding, but she didn't. The weight of her silence crushed me. I stood abruptly, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. A few heads turned, but I didn't care. My legs carried me toward the exit before I even realized I was moving. I couldn't sit there and listen to more. I couldn't watch my wife confirm the very thing that had been gnawing at my gut for weeks. The truth was out, and it had destroyed everything. The house felt different when I walked in that evening, emptier, colder, like the warmth had drained from it the moment the truth was spoken in that courtroom. Emily was already home, sitting on the couch, her hands resting on her swollen belly. She looked up as I entered, her eyes red and swollen. I didn't speak. I couldn't. She exhaled shakily. Please, let me explain. I let out a hollow laugh, shaking my head. Explain what, Emily? That you lied to me? That you cheated while carrying our child? Tears welled in her eyes, but I had no sympathy left to give. It wasn't like that, she whispered. I didn't, she swallowed hard. It was one night. A mistake. It never should have happened. A sharp pain twisted in my chest. You had every chance to tell me the truth, but you didn't. You let me sit there, doubting myself, thinking I was paranoid. You let me believe we were still us. She covered her face with her hands. I was scared. Scared of what? I demanded. Scared of losing your job? Or scared of losing me? Her silence told me everything. I ran a hand over my face, exhaustion pressing down on me. You humiliated me today, Emily. In front of strangers. In front of him. A sob broke from her lips. I know. And I hate myself for it. I turned away, staring at the walls we had painted together, the baby name book still lying on the coffee table. It was supposed to be a new beginning. Instead, it was the end. I can't do this, I said finally. My voice was flat, drained of emotion. I can't stay here and pretend this didn't happen. Her breath hitched. Please, don't say that. I met her gaze, and for the first time in our marriage, I saw a stranger staring back at me. I'm filing for divorce. The words felt foreign on my tongue, but the moment I said them, I knew they were the only option. Emily let out a choked sob, her whole body trembling. What about the baby? My chest ached, but I forced myself to stand firm. I'll be here for our child. Always. But this, I gestured between us, is over. A heavy silence filled the room, the final nail in the coffin of our marriage. I turned and walked toward the door, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me with every step. I didn't look back. I couldn't, because if I did, I might remember the love we once had, and that love was already dead.